It's been 11 racing rounds and one hell of a season. And it all comes down to the final round, which should have been the ninth round, but that's okay. Technical issues and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thursday GT3 Series Season 2 here on iRacing, presented by America's Racing League. Our final location for the final moments of the championship is Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, better known as Interlagos, 2.677 miles and 15 corners of bliss. It is an absolutely wonderful circuit. It is one of my personal favorites, and, well, it needs a little introduction than I've gave it. It's absolutely fantastic. My name is Jack Mays. I will be your broadcaster and commentator tonight, and joining alongside me is the wonderfully amazing and lovely Jesse Lee. Jesse, you've become familiar now with this championship over the past couple of weeks. I mean, are you ready to tip it off to move into the next season, or are you going to be sad to see it go?
Well, I'm going to be sad to see it go. I think first and foremost, hello everyone watching at home. It is kind of a sad day. It is the end of one of these fantastic ARL championships here in iRacing. And we do hate to see it go. I hate to see it go. The racing has been incredible. The strategy that has been played out in some of these races has also been enthralling to watch as well. And we've seen multiple winners in the series in our span, or in my time span here this season as well. So yeah, it will be sad. And I think if there was a silver lining, that silver lining is that there, well, as far as I've been told, there will be another one. And we all have that to look forward to.
Absolutely. Season 3 of the GT3 series is out. Signups are released for the upcoming championship that will begin in a few weeks. I will give more information about that a little bit later in the broadcast. This time it's hosted on SimGrid, so if you're curious about information, it is all there. And good news, qualifying's getting a nice overhaul in the next season. It will no longer be this weird, awkward thing that I always show up late to. But instead of it just being 2 qualifying laps in 10 minutes, it will be a full circuit, no private qualifying, 10 laps to set your best time, and that will be that. And I have that to look forward to. But there's lots of other little distinct changes and things here that will make for a superb third season. It's Piotr Chabilski on the pole provisionally, though I think that will indeed stick for the finale. Paul O'Malley, who clinched the championship last week. James O'Brien, who I've noticed has switched to a Mustang. He's been in an AMG for most of this season, so maybe he's thinking, let's send it off with a very popular car. Nick Dawson-Lathan is in 4th. Michael Hickman 5th. Stefano Zanotti 6th. George Reynolds Jr. is in 7th. Stan Padarakis, who's actually the person to thank for this broadcast tonight, as he sponsored the circuit way back when we thought we were going to go racing a few weeks ago, but we made it now, so special thank you to Stan, and especially good luck to him as a result. Wyatt Johnson's in 9th. Daniel Kent is in 10th. Javi Sanabria 11th. Ted Piper, first time back on track in a couple of weeks, is in 12th. Benjamin Galat is in 13th. Anne-Marie De Pasquale is in 14th. Devin Strauss 15th. And Barry Cochrane in 16th position, Jesse. And I mean, I love this circuit. I'm very vocal about it. How do you feel about Interlagos? And did you know that Interlagos actually means between two lakes?
I did know that because Lagos mean yes. Well, I will say it is one of my favorite racetracks. It's been a staple of the Formula One calendar since well, you won't believe this, Jack, since before I was born.
It's a long
And
time.
a lot of great. Yeah, it was a long time ago. We had black and white TV, but and 3 channels, and we had to walk uphill or something to watch it. I don't know, whatever old people say. I do love this racetrack. I love what it stands for. There's been Formula One championships decided here. There's been a whole lot of other racing, rather, besides. It's a staple of sort of the racing landscape, not just in South America, but in the world full stop. It's a beautiful racetrack. It's been modified a few times, originally open in 1940. It's been modified. I think it was modified in 79. I think it was modified in 1990, and then again in 1999 into the 4.3 kilometer or 2.6-mile circuit that we have here, 15 turns, and every single one of them, no matter how tight it is, feels like a sweeping corner. It's got that old school racetrack feel, and you're going to see that today. You're going to see cars that can absolutely get after each other. And with all these different manufacturers, Jack, we talked about this leading up to this point. Great thing about GT racing, they're all different. They all have different handling characteristics, and they all drive different. Some are going to brake better than others. Some are going to turn better than the others. This track promotes that kind of racing. It's been a great season. Can't wait to see the finale start off, because I have a feeling we're going to get treated to an excellent final event.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. It's going to be great. A bit lighter than we've seen grids in the past, but part of the length of the season, it just creates that. Season 3 will only be 10 rounds with a drop round included. I'll give you little sprinkles of things to be excited about. So good news for the less committal or less time available folk among us, but it is going to be Piotr Jabilski on the pole again and again. One final fight between him and O'Malley to start off our evening. Plenty more cars besides. It seems like this is it almost feels like several manufacturers turned up here tonight and brought several cars. We've got several Mustangs, several Corvettes, several AMGs, several Ferraris, and the odd Porsche McLaren as well. So it's sure to be absolutely lovely as the pace car sets off, giving actually one of the longer formation laps we've seen, as this is a full-length circuit, not quite like what we were treated to at Lime Rock last week. No 50-second laps here. It's all about what you can do over a race distance. They're warming it up. They're getting it ready to go. Not a super hot track, Jesse. Nothing crazy. No weather to strike here tonight. It's just going to be good old school racing on a great old school circuit.
Partly cloudy, no real threat of rain that we're aware of. The temperatures hovering around that 25°C mark. It's just about what you could ask for, the best possible conditions. A couple of Fords, then some Chevys with a McLaren sprinkled in there, the Mercedes in the middle of the field, and an uncharacteristically I would say difficult qualifying session for Emery Di Pasquale, who didn't qualify in the top 10. They're going to have their work cut out for them in this one. Who's your money on? Shabilsky, O'Malley. They've gone at it all season long. This one is the one that everybody will remember in the finale. And of course, we'll hand out some hardware at the end of the night for the champion as well.
Yep. 1 hour to go. Everybody, final moments to make an impression. Piotr Jabilski immediately jumping on the loud pedal as soon as the pace car drops in. An incredible start from him, an incredible jump. Paul O'Malley equal on the start. A bit of movement, but everybody stacking up nice and neatly into the first couple of corners. Nobody off in the wrong direction as they come through the Senna S's. It seems that immediately behind a bit of movement up the field, but look at him run down towards turn 4. A bit of tire warming as they get on into it, but very clean, very pretty, very, very nice for the final time this season. There's Michael Hickman, the mighty McLaren, getting pushed out just a bit into turn 4, and as they run up towards the midsection, this is where it gets really difficult to overtake. There are some moves that can be done, but they really need to be thought through. If you're going to do it, maybe turn 8, turn 9, I hazard you an attempt at an overtake through there. We'll start heading back up the hill through 10 and 11. And finally, once you hit turn 12 and hit the back straight, you might be looking at a chance to pass. But nobody thinking about a chance to pass Piotr Jabilski already, Jesse. 0.8 of a second on the opening lap. That is a statement if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, Shabilsky got a really good jump on the start there and was under absolutely no threat. The Fords were climbing all over each other, so much so that Dawson Lathan had to look down into turn number 4 on James O'Brien. That wouldn't come to pass. There was one car just a second ago that was yellow flagged that fell down through the field. You will see quite a number of yellow flags here simply because running off the racetrack will create that in iRacing. around Interlagos, so don't really worry about that too much. But I did see one car, didn't quite catch the number on the door. It might have been Javi, by the way, Sanabria, who fell down through the order in sector number 3, somewhere around turn 12. And we'll see if we can't get more information on that. But for right now, it's Shabilsky over O'Malley, O'Brien, the top 3, Dawson, Lathan, Zanatti, the top 5. Meanwhile, Stam trying to make their sort of way around the outside is going to get jumped here by a couple of the cars. Here comes George Reynolds Jr. up the inside now.
Just getting pushed a bit outside, and there's not a whole lot you can do. You lose a bit of momentum coming up the hill, and one car gets through. You can't immediately step over, but a bit deep on the brakes goes Wyatt Johnson, and round goes the 296 immediately into the infield grasses, fortunately out of the way for everybody else coming through, but just a little bit of a clumsy move, and in the background spins further once they enter back on the circuit. Wyatt Johnson off to a terrible start here tonight, and I want to see immediately what just occurred just a moment ago. I need to see it again in full 4K picture. See, he's coming up, has a look, deep on the brakes goes Johnson, and then he cuts back, and the 296, he's still turning, is Wyatt Johnson. It's just a ever so slight misjudgment, and the worst part of it all, dirty tires, Jesse, onto the racetrack and back off again.
Yeah, it's not a racetrack that's pretty hospitable to drivers going on and off the racetrack. And the relative, I say relative low speed, it is relative low speed in a lot of the sector 2 corners, but the problem is that they're loaded corners at that, meaning that if you're offline or you're not giving it the proper power, add the fact that the tires were dirty, then that's a huge problem. That's exactly what you saw there. Dirty tires, low grip situation, and you're going through there normally 2 or 3 times that speed anyway, and it's easy to make that mistake. Good fight here between these two. The Chevrolet of Dawson, is that no, that's not Lathan, that's Zanatti in that Chevrolet, with Michael Hickman fighting over P5. Looks like Michael Hickman has one out in the McLaren, one out to keep that position anyway, as Stefano Zanatti was the one troubling Hickman for 5th. But for right now, the McLaren holds.
It seemed like as they were making their way through turn 6, I don't know if there's a little bit of a touch between Hickman and Zanatti, but it looked close. You reacted as I did, and suddenly Zanatti was a little bit out of shape on the exit of the corner. He needed to stabilize the car, and Hickman was just able to drive through pretty easily. Zanatti, though, finds himself under a little bit of Chevrolet-friendly fire. George Reynolds Jr. looking for a dive down into turn 1. You brake so unbelievably late for this corner, and just maybe a little bit too late for Reynolds Jr., but a little bit of paint traded. I don't think a whole lot of love lost, but Reynolds is up into 6th. At the front of the field, somehow, some way, in the second couple of laps, here comes Paul O'Malley on Piotr Shabilsky coming through turn 4. He was defensive coming out of the corner, though. Momentum lost. Switcheroo, the old switcheroo for Paul O'Malley, and, well, a champion do what champion do. Shabilsky making the track maybe a bit wider than it ought to be, hoping for a run into the second sector. Somehow he found that pace. I mean, the gap wasn't too large, Jesse, but it felt like a stone when we were looking away. But these two have been front runners in this field the past couple of weeks, and I'm gonna gander that it's not one that we're gonna see anybody run away with in this race. Maybe a little bit of strategy to separate them a little bit, but I can't imagine these two getting beyond 3-4 seconds of each other all the way throughout this race.
We're going to have to see. Paul O'Malley trying to turn this race into a victory lap, and he's got the lead now, just a little bit wide in turn 4. Was Piotr Shabilsky allowing O'Malley through, and it's a good shout, partner. We'll see if this huge front straightaway that is anything but straight will play a huge factor in that with the two identical manufacturers. Of course, we don't know how they're set up, but still, you would have to imagine same horsepower, maybe a good tow will keep them nice and close. But the number 30 out in front again. We've said that time and time again this season. O'Malley leading Shabilsky and O'Brien. Dawson, Lathan out there by themselves. And I've just noticed a bit of a gap has formed. Just one lap ago, Hickman and Reynolds, all those cars were sort of together, but now they're separated.
I think I don't know. I think that the mistakes are maybe starting to come a little thick and fast. It is a deeply technical circuit, not one that's easy by any measure. And I think Stefano Zanatti showing what it means to put in a good qualifying lap and what it means to be quick in the race car when it's set up for a race. Because he started up in fourth, he's now finding himself down in eighth, getting picked off one by one. Ted Piper was the latest to get through. Stan Paterakis maybe looking to be the next, but I think just little mistakes. We're seeing those yellow flags pop up, like you mentioned, Jesse, which is just drivers going off track, but that still is in and of itself a mistake. You do kind of generally, fun fact, if you ever want to drive a race car, you do want to keep it between the white lines. That's a free tip. You don't have to pay for that one. But I'm wondering, pushing a bit too hard, maybe in the middle sector, getting a little bit out of shape into the grass for just half a second, you lose momentum, and suddenly you find yourself 5, 6 tenths down, maybe even a second down just from a single mistake. So that's my theory for why the field is spreading out as much as it is early on. But we'll see how it all shapes up. 8 minutes in, 52 minutes to go, and a whole pit stop and a whole lot of racing laps between any of these drivers and waving the checkered for the finale. Jesse, if you were a mid-pack player right now, you were a Stefano Zanatti. Let's say you are Stefano Zanatti, and you're maybe realizing, right, race pace, not stellar. I feel like I'm sort of getting beaten up just a little bit here. What's your play to offset yourself? Maybe what kind of strategy are you thinking about running to put yourself in the best shape in the second half?
Well, if I'm in the mid-pack and I'm thinking that maybe I'm down on a little bit of pace, I've got to start using strategy. I can't rely on the car or the setup or even my ability, right, to set the lap times I need to set up. So I need to work some strategy here. And depending on how pliable my strategy is, I would come in at the very first instance, because if I was Zanatti in particular, I've just been passed by Ted Piper, who is making their way up through the field, by the way, up to 7th place now in that Mercedes AMG, and I'm being troubled by Stan Paterakis behind me, and even so, Galan is right behind them. I'm going to pit as soon as I humanly can. At the very first option, I'm coming down pit lane. I'm going to try the undercut, get myself out of traffic, do something different, even if it's slightly off strategy, because I've always told drivers this under my coaching: if you can't beat them with speed, beat them with your brain. Out-strategize somebody if you cannot outrace them. And I think that's kind of where you have to be in a situation like this. You know, you've got to come to a racetrack with a plan A, B, C, D through Z, but also you've got to be flexible with that plan. You've got to have a bunch of different scenarios going through your head. And if I started in the mid-pack today, one of my plans would have been, okay, if this starts to go sideways and I'm going backwards, what can I do to stop the bleeding? One of the simplest things to do: come and pit as early as possible.
I think that's a great shout. And as a reminder, you sort of can and can't do that whenever you want. These cars only able to be filled with 55% of maximum fuel, which means a little over half distance, maybe exactly halfway to an hour. So Zanatti, to stem the bleeding, he's going to have to wait as long as he can, though I will say, good news for you, Jesse, and good news for me as well. We're a bunch of strategy nerds. The fuel limits next season will be up to 75%. So a lot more room for a bit of extra strategy, maybe an undercut, maybe an overcut, maybe something in the gray. But for tonight, Zanatti, I think, is going to have to stem the bleed a little bit.
He can still come in as soon as possible. He's got to figure out. I love the fuel limit window, and I've not really seen that used a whole lot. I applaud ARL for using a fuel limit like this. The WEC do something similar with the virtual energy, right? And I think it really works. I mean, we just had the 24 at Le Mans that shows that a car can come from the back to the front of the field, and sort of using strategy to do that, a little bit of good luck, and then it all sort of switches around. Zanardi can still use the strategy of coming in first. It's just it's a bit more finite than it would be if they had a longer leash is all.
Yeah. And it's, you know, doing that math as a driver in the car, it's a little bit tricky. I personally am not the greatest at math in general, even if I have a calculator in front of me. When you're driving a race car, you don't necessarily have a calculator in front of you unless you have somebody else who's around who's willing to do the math for you. And might I say, you have friends that are around that are interested in like sim racing. You're like, hey, find engineering for me. Do a little bit of math with me and watch what I'm doing. Might be a good way to get them into it. Also, good news for you because you don't have to do math and you also have someone to talk to, which I enjoy. Or join the racing Discord of whatever league you're in. Most leagues do that. Stan Paterakis thinking about it on the inside of Benjamin Gallant into T1, but the Ferrari overtaking Stam on that back straight, I believe. He was the next car to Stefano Zanardi, and he's dropped back just a little bit. But doing that math on the fly, not easy. You never want to second guess yourself, because if you short fill, if you get it wrong by a lap, either you're going to have to save that fuel, that's going to slow you down, or the ultimate oopsie, I need to pit again and take a bit of emergency service, as we call it. But it seems that it's mostly smooth sailing, Jesse.
Yeah, Aaron Henschel has towed to the pit lane, and you're talking about having to come in twice. I believe Javi Sanabria is going to have to do that. They were an early casualty in the race. Don't know exactly what happened to the number 14 AMG, though I did call it out that something happened to Javi, but they came in at the end of lap number 2 and pitted. Now, they can't make it because of the limited 55 tank. They can't make it to the end of the race, so they're going to have to double pit here, but that car is still out there and in the race looking to pick up the pieces, and already did. Aaron Henschel in the Ferrari towing back. Didn't see what happened to that Ferrari either, but they are already several laps down. Speaking of having a rough day. O'Malley over Shabilsky O'Brien, nothing changing up there. Dawson Lathan continuing to fall behind in the Corvette. Michael Hickman now nearly 4 seconds off the back of Dawson Lathan. Doesn't seem that long ago that all those cars were together. George Reynolds leads Piper, Zanardi, Gallant, who we look at here, and Paterakis, your top 10. The nearest battles are this one with Paterakis and Gallant, and Piper and Zanardi. I thought Stefano was losing Ted Piper there for a while, and he may have been, but Zanardi has turned it up a little bit, got that gap back down under a second.
Yeah, it's done, which, I mean, I think early laps, maybe a little bit of cold tires, maybe a little bit of jitters, maybe a little bit of juju, the reverse juju. A lot of talk in the YouTube chat and in the Discord about Stefano Zanardi's Italian black magic that he apparently casts on other drivers to make them spin or just make mistakes. I think maybe he casted the spell in a mirror and got himself a little bit today, but he seems to have wiped it off for the most part. I do want to see, because I'm a bit curious, what caused Aaron Henschel to end up towing. That car looks fine for the moment. I have a feeling it's going to get less fine in a second. It's not as dramatic as maybe I was expecting, Jesse, but I think that might just be a little bit of a race retirement. That car looking like it was going down a bit slowly. A struggly night tonight for Aaron Henschel. I do think perhaps that's the last we'll see of him tonight. However, in the garage, could come back out, could run some laps. Still plenty of time to do that.
I've just realized, by the way, why the gap to Zanardi was closing down. It's because Piper has caught George Reynolds Jr., and that's bringing everybody back together. You're about to have Reynolds Jr., Piper, Zanardi, Gallant, and Paterakis, all of those cars in a line again, because they're all going to be fighting this one Chevrolet of George Reynolds Jr. Ted Piper, by the way, the part-time sort of driver in this championship, not hanging around, didn't have the best qualifying, didn't matter. All the way up to 7th, looking for 6th. He's got pace. He's got top 5 pace here, Jack.
Absolutely, I think so. And George Reynolds Jr. is not going to be a walkover by any means, but if and when he gets ahead, he's got a bit of a gap to find. But it seems like he's got the pace quite clearly because of the fact that he's been held back by the Corvette. But moves need to be made in only a few key spots on the circuit, into turn 1, into turn 4, into turn 8, maybe turn 12 if you're feeling really, really spicy. And of course, if there's a mistake happening at it, well, the move can happen anywhere. That's just a freebie, as I like to say. But through for another lap to start, well, another lap, as they tend to do in motorsport races. 18 minutes in, Jesse Lee. And I think, I won't lie to you, I'm currently racking my brain for another wonderful topic to speak about, since speaking about desserts last week was such a big hit. But I'm just sort of, I'm letting something come to me organically right now. Let me cook. Will it be about food again? I don't know.
I'll let you cook while I talk about Ted Piper, who is trying to find the way around George Reynolds Jr. and trying to bring, accidentally, but bringing Zanotti, Galan, and Paterekis all with them in a row here. Though I will say Zanotti is a little bit of a cork in the bottle right now, with Galan and Paterekis in a row. And behind them, another pack is falling. Devon Strauss leading Johnson and Cochran, all three of those cars together in a line, all of them fighting over 12th position. And here's the racer mentality. For those of you that may be tuning in, maybe you're a family member or you're cheering on a friend or a loved one in this race, and you don't quite understand, why do they fight so hard for 12th place? It's not a top 10, it's not top 5, it's not a podium or a win. What does it matter? As a racing driver, the logic is, if you can beat somebody, you want to. It doesn't matter if it's for next to last or the win. Every position is important. Well, not only is it important for championship points, which for a lot of positions were incredibly close coming into the final round, it's also important to the driver's psyche, and you're about to see that right here as Wyatt Johnson trying to make the move on Strauss into one and gets it done easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That is how you draw it up. No contact, just an easy pass, probably facilitated by Devon Strauss just a little bit, admittedly, not wanting to go in there too wide, but nevertheless getting it done. And moving on here is Benjamin Gallant on Stefano Zanotti getting by in turn 4.
Something like a little bit of a mistake. I think just going a bit deep into turn 4. Nothing showing up on the incident sheet that I can show you, so nothing so dramatic that I'd have a replay, but something dramatic enough to allow for a change of position. Benjamin Gallant, speaking of drivers who are trying to push through, maybe having top 5 pace, Gallant started towards the very back of this field, slowly picking away. Daniel Kent a few laps ago, Stan Paterakis this time, and I mean, if he pushes any further and a bit faster, he might get upon Piper and George Reynolds Jr. So, who's to say? It seems like, we always talk about, I think yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, excuse me, we had spoke about, how important is qualifying in a 24-hour race? The answer, it isn't. It just isn't. To a certain extent it is, but the race outcome, it isn't.
Absolutely proved that it matters absolutely nil.
In a sprint race, it's certainly far more important, but there is still such a big gap between your qualifying pace. For a lot of drivers, there's a huge gap between your qualifying pace and your race pace, because ultimately, it's like driving a different car. One on low fuel versus one that's filled to the brim, and also a lot of drivers in sim electing to have a different qualifying setup versus a different race setup. Showing tonight that some guys had it in qualifying, maybe don't have it in race. Some guys have it in race and maybe don't have it in qualifying.
Yeah, it really is like that. I've never been a qualifier. I can't qualify for beans. I just can't do it. I don't know why. I've been sim racing for 20 plus years. Can't do it. I just can't qualify. I have no single lap speed. I can't do it, but I get into the race I'll drive circles around you, but I'll also have to come from the back because I can't qualify for beans. So it's a catch-22. It is the way it is. But some drivers are qualifying drivers. Some drivers are racing drivers. And a lot of times, especially in sort of public lobby, sort of championship like kind of scenarios, you can tell the two. There's a vast chasm of sort of experience and mastery on a grand scale. But in a league setting like this, it's a little bit different. You find that a lot of drivers have a mix of skills, and there's that old saying, there's courses for horses and that sort of thing. And I think you're seeing that a little bit with Interlagos today. A couple of drivers certainly out of place from where I would expect to have seen, where we have seen them all season long, struggling. And I think a lot of that's not necessarily the car, the setup. It's more the setting. It's the racetrack. This is a very different skill set in its own right, this racetrack, comparatively to most of the tracks we've raced thus far.
Absolutely. And I'm not a qualifier either. Feel your pain. Very regularly, as several people in ARL know, for when I occasionally make appearances in a race or two, I don't think I've ever qualified in an ARL race in a very long time, because I don't really like doing it. I don't like having to think about it. And I will say, if you've never done it, starting from the back of a grid in a competitive race is really fun. If you can sort of...
It's exhilarating,
It
isn't
is, because when you get that group of drivers that can put together a clean first couple of sectors and a clean race, like we see here week after week, there's no big lap one, turn one pileups that you see in public lobbies. Getting to rush through that field, or getting to try to rush through that field, is so much fun. If you haven't done it, I recommend it. Nothing like a little... I mean, granted, fighting for a championship's always good, and you can fight for a championship starting from the back of the grid if you're just really better than me. Strategy got to be on your... you got to nail your strategy if you're starting from the back. I will say that. If you want to test your strategy, start from the back of the field. If you think you're on it for a good one, go for it. So, it seems, I have to say, for Stefano Zanotti, I think he's getting right to the point where he might come in if he decides to come in early. We were thinking maybe, he's found the pace, but maybe that was a little bit of being pulled along by other cars. So I still think best bet is going to be the undercut. I doubt any tires are going to be taken, Jesse. Unfortunately, we don't have our tire expert Ted Piper with us, because of course he's behind the wheel of a race car right now. And just, but
he's being a tire wreck. Whoa! Look at that move right there.
Into turn 8. What I love very much, but rarely get to see.
Wyatt Johnson threw it in there. Daniel Kent said, all right, if you're sure, go ahead. And just sort of, you could see that car let off. He let off the throttle, and you could see the body of that car sort of like lower back to its natural state instead of being on throttle. Daniel Kent just sort of let him have that after he stuck it in there. Wyatt Johnson up to P11. Very nice move for the Ferrari. I didn't realize this, but the LED board, the old boards, which are on these cars in iRacing, they don't update until you get to the line. I'm so spoiled by the new ones that update based on a sector line, but these only update per lap, I'm pretty sure. I think it'll say 11 now, and does, now that we came across the line. It's been a long time since I've seen the position boards like that. Old IMSA technology right there. Paul O'Malley continues to lead Shabilsky, O'Brien the top 3. Dawson Lathan has kept Hickman at bay, and so has George Reynolds Jr. kept Ted Piper at bay for 6th position. I thought Ted was going to drive by George Reynolds Jr. That has not occurred. The Chevrolet holding strong from Chevy to Chevy. Stefano Zanotti goes wide, and that's going to give up the position to the 15 of Stem Padarakis. And yes, falling back in line will be the number 18 Corvette. Just went a little bit deep there, Jack.
It looked like that Benjamin Gallant ahead had some sort of... He was sort of going into the corner a little bit slowly, maybe lost it just a bit. I think that might have caught Stan Padarakis off, or usually caught Stefano Zanotti off just a little bit, allowing for Stam to get, well, all he needed was a clean line to sneak his way through. So the Italian Stallion falling into 10th position, Stam up to 9th. But you're absolutely right. that Ted Piper, we thought he was going to drive by him, but George Reynolds and Ted, they are friends for sure. They are on the ARL iRacing admin team, so maybe they're trying to play it extra safe on each other. Maybe, you don't want to make enemies this point in the race, but no, I think they are reveling in racing against each other, as are these two. Nick Dawson-Lathan finding himself with the inevitability of Michael Hickman on his tail. I have seen time and time again, ever since Dawson-Lathan made his debut in this championship at the midway, maybe a few rounds earlier than that, but I remember the Charlotte Roval. Nick Dawson-Lathan kept Michael Hickman behind him just like this for the better part of 50 whole minutes. I don't remember where they finished. I think Hickman was able to get through in the closing moments, but I know for a fact that the Chevy is comfortable and capable of keeping the McLaren behind. But Jesse, different day, different circuit, different conditions. Hickman's been on the charge just a little bit since losing a bit of pace in the opening. So, I mean, I think this fight's here to stay, but I could end at any moment.
Well, the driver that remembers the Charlotte Roval is Michael Hickman. They remember losing and not being able to get the pass done and sort of running in these tire tracks. You certainly know that McLaren remembers this particular anime paint scheme and those rear taillights, and would rather not have history repeat itself. Looking down to the inside, can't quite do it into turn number 4, follows through. Dawson-Lathan survives again, and it'll likely be a new or a whole nother lap before he gets a new opportunity to try that again.
Looking further back, speaking of drivers who are not on the pace tonight, Anne-Marie De Pasquale she qualified in 14th or 15th. She's finding herself still down in 14th or 15th, trying to get past Devin Strauss. And I have a sneaking suspicion, maybe a lack of practice, maybe rolling up on the day, only running a couple laps, maybe not getting comfortable with the setup, and a whole mixture of things. But Anne-Marie not looking at her best, but still looking for a move into turn 6. Devin Strauss of the Porsche trying to hang it around the outside. It's going to be a bit difficult to do. Is going to have to slot in behind. So changed her position at the back of the field. Anne-Marie just hoping to get through this race with as many points as she can get her hands on. Of course, I mean, we say the championship's done, Jesse, but there's still all to play for all throughout the championship. I mean, points are points. Nothing's decided. There ain't nothing over till the fat lady sings, as they say. Seems though the sun is starting to set here in Sao Paulo, and it's as we've seen many week after week, it's turning into that golden hour.
Yeah, we've lost nearly a centigrade of temperature out of the racetrack already, and the sun's not fully set. Of course, the overcast nature of the sky. I mean, it's not completely overcast; it's mostly cloudy, but it's certainly helping to cool off the racetrack. Of course, the temp coming down here in Sao Paulo also helping as well. And by the way, Stefano Zanatti, of the cars that haven't had any real trouble, they are the first to come into the pit lane, and that sort of illustrates where their head was at. Kind of exactly what I described, was coming in as early as possible, doing something different. If the pace is there, you've got to beat them some other way, and doing the coming in early is one of the ways that you can get that done, by trying to undercut everyone else. Now, they held on as best they could, but unfortunately nearly everyone in that line that was behind them did get by them. It would have worked out better if they would have had the opportunity to keep a couple of cars behind them. Turn 1 here always looks scary, even when it's not the Senna S's. Always a scary time, though. Both drivers were well under control, but Dawson-Lathan and Hickman coming very close together, and dare I say, not close enough this time for the McLaren to have a look down the inside of the Corvette.
He's going to have to work some more to get by. I mean, he's got a lot of time that's going to end up feeling like a little bit of time if he's stuck behind the Corvette. Michael Hickman's got 28 minutes and, of course, a pit stop. So the question is, if you're Hickman, do you go in early? Do you try to extend ahead? I mean, I was Hickman. I'd go in immediately. I'd go in this lap, get into free air, put in some good fast lap times so that once you come out, because I think it's clear that Hickman has a bit more pace than Dawson Lathan. So go use that pace in a bit of free air. It's not the most exciting way to make an overtake, I would argue, Jesse, but it is a deeply effective one, as Paul O'Malley from the lead of the pit and Piotr Shabilski both come in at the end of this lap.
I think everyone's coming in this time.
I think everybody is
I'm pretty
indeed.
sure.
See, this guy knows. This guy gets it. Jesse Lee, smart fella.
Yeah, the first time anyone's ever said that, Jack. But I think everyone is going to come in because we saw Zanotti come in, and that brought in Gallant and Piper and Cochran. And now I think everybody has to come in. Not only is it about the time you'd come in anyway, but you don't really win anything by risking it once the first car has come in and you know that they can make it. So O'Malley, Shabilski, O'Brien, Lathan, Hickman, Reynolds. Here comes Padarakis. I would imagine Johnson, Kent, Anne-Marie, DePasquale, and Strauss would also come in. These cars fresh out of the pit lane. Benjamin Gallant will continue in front of Stefano Zanotti, who will have warmer tires. Of course, we don't suspect anyone's changed tires, but the tires will cool sitting in the pit lane, getting service, adding fuel to the cars. So warmer tires, meaning you came in a lap earlier, will matter a little bit on that opening lap or so. It's not quite as extreme as it is in LMU, but still it is a noticeable effect, but still unable to get by. Gallant is Stefano Zanotti, stuck behind the Ferrari now.
It does show that something came about from Zanotti's undercut, because he was, you know, a few seconds behind. He's going to come out, and here comes Zanotti ahead of Padarakis just by a hair. So the undercut working for track position, maybe not quite to the effect. Ted Piper, though, who was ahead of all of these drivers, is back down almost 10 seconds back.
Did he take tires?
I suspect perhaps.
Did the man who came in here and for several weeks preached about not taking tires, did he take tires?
I feel as though he may have. Because I don't know the time delta, because I think tires are served while the car is being fueled, but it still takes a little bit longer to put on tires than it does to fill up half a tank of fuel. That could be around 8 seconds, which is about what it's worth on the timing screen, but I'm going to say he did, and openly ridicule him from the booth for it. I will not do that. I will not do that, because it could work. Unless.
I was going to say, unless he's
egg
a
on
genius,
my shirt.
and he is going to be able to get those positions back. He will have to drive back up to at least 7th place to record a net sort of neutral finish. He is down in 11th place, but he also, well, he kind of drove from down there once up to 7th. Who's to say he can't do it again, especially if he has new tires? The other side of the coin is maybe he just had an issue in the pit lane and was sat there a little extra long, but time will tell to see if Ted Piper did take tires. We'll be able to know, because it will be a somewhat noticeable difference on the Delta if he did. And of course, if he has extra sort of grip and grunt to get around some of the other traffic, we'll certainly know as well. Stefano Zanotti started the pit stop cycle, finds himself in 8th, and now with renewed vigor is fighting this man, Benjamin Gallant, in the Ferrari for 7th place. Again, you pit a lap earlier and everybody, you start the cycle, good things can happen to you. Benjamin under fire. Stefano Zanotti may feel like he's got a new lease on life in the Corvette now.
I think maybe he has. He's really looking like he's going for it. He's not the hunted anymore. He seems to have become the hunter on the back of that Ferrari. But at the front of the field, though, I have to say, I'm wondering if Piotr Shabilski took a little bit of extra fuel, maybe a little bit of safety in the pit lane. Also might have had an issue coming in, because that gap wasn't 4 seconds 3 laps
it's
ago.
Doubled.
It's just about.
You're absolutely right.
Something happening there, and it's unfortunate for that, because when you're within a second or two, you're so much closer to a small mistake, meaning a lot. You can get a little bit of distance slipstream from back there, and always right. Stampadarakis all over the back in the Senna S's. I think maybe Stefano having a bit of a mistake, and here comes Stampadarakis. No, not on the brakes. I guess he looked a heck of a lot closer than he was. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for the cameras tonight. They've been frustrating me all night. I just need to say it out loud so the whole world knows that I don't like them either. I just want to make it clear. If it were me, I'd tell them to move. I'd fire them all and hire new people.
We control quite a lot here in the ARL broadcast booth. The camera positions are not one of those. We can't do anything about that, so we do apologize. And we are seeing, by the way, in the box, we do see the same angles in the cameras everyone at home sees as well. So if we seem slightly at odds with ourselves, it's simply because we're trying to translate the camera angles to what we're actually seeing. Normally, a lot of race circuits, we have a bit better viewpoint than we do here. The fixed camera positions can sometimes be our best friend and our worst enemy. This driver, Dawson Lathan, how in the world did you know I wanted to talk about Dawson Lathan? Nick Dawson Lathan and Michael Hickman in and out of the pit lane. This battle, absolutely nothing changed in the pit lane. They came in together, they've come out together, and they're as close as ever. Maybe even a little bit more close here as they race up to turn 6 and 7. Looking down the inside.
Yet again,
man.
Trick of the lens. They looked a lot closer than that. I thought we were going to see an amazing crash. By amazing, I mean exciting. By exciting, I mean tragic. But no, these two far too good at what they do in their cars. Nick Dawson Lathan managing to stay ahead, managing to keep it ahead. I don't think that it's going to go quietly. I don't think it's going to go easily. It just seems that I would argue that maybe the Corvette C8 GT3 has just a little bit more straight line than the McLaren does, because you usually think, he's in the toe, he should be able to get by him. Might I remind you, it's not like Formula One. We don't got DR. Well, it's not DRS anymore. We don't have overtake mode or any of that fancy nonsense. You just get good old fashioned fixed wing angles. I think maybe less wing angle on the Corvette, and this is one of those circuits you can kind of do that. It's sort of like Spa in that way, where you can maybe run a little bit of a lower downforce setup, because it is just so hard to overtake once you get into the twisty stuff. As long as you're able to stay ahead in turn 1, as long as you're able to stay ahead in turn 4, you can maybe kind of make your way up if you so choose. That, of course, track position is going to be your one and only goal. So it's a bold strategy. I don't know if that's what Nick Dawson Lathan is doing. I merely am theorizing. Jesse, you know, I am a man who likes his theories.
Yeah, I do love a nice theory. Very close indeed, and that wasn't a trick of the lens. They were nose to tail getting into turn number 4 again, but holding is Stefano Zanatti. You know who's loving this? Benjamin Gallant in the Ferrari. Oh, and a quick move there. Michael Hickman in front of Dawson Lathan just happened. The McLaren up to 4th place now.
And he's done that in a very interesting bit of circuit. I don't know if it was turn 10. I don't know if it was turn 11, but he made the move stick. I'm wondering if it was maybe a whoopsie-daisy, because he's given the position right back. So there must have been a little bit of contact between the two of them that caused Hickman and Lathan to get
I love that
ahead.
Sportsmanship, though.
Absolutely, 1,000%. We've talked about I don't remember who it was a few weeks ago, but we were talking about our safe driver of the week. I think our sportsman driver of the week might be Michael Hickman, because at the end of the day, some people might be like, why? I don't understand. Why did he give the position back? Well, sometimes if you make a move and it's something that could be deemed legal, looked upon frowningly by the stewards, maybe an overtake with a little bit of contact or something, or maybe you just don't feel good about the move you just made. You felt like you did it unfair in some sort of an unfair way. You give the position back. It's the right thing to do. It's the sportsman thing to do. And also, I'll be honest, Jesse, it's the fun thing to do because it immediately means you can get back to going wheel to wheel as they done. This time, no mistake, no possibly illegal maneuver. This is on pace for Michael Hickman. He was waiting for the mistake. It came in turn 8. Through goes the McLaren. I don't think he's going to run away, but I know for a fact, Jesse Lee, he is going to do just that. He's going to try to get out of here.
Yeah, I hard to tell without seeing exactly what happened. I don't think they made contact. I'm pretty confident that maybe Hickman just ran in hard on the corner and maybe Dawson Latham had to sort of dodge out of the way maybe in turns 10 and 11, because any contact in those corners usually results in quite a heavy spin. So the fact that there was no yellow flags, I would just imagine that Hickman took that position in the start of the third sector in a way that they didn't feel was fair or they didn't like, gave it back and got it the old-fashioned way, a mistake up into turn number 6 for Dawson Latham. Michael Hickman through, and possibly a candidate for the sportsman of the race. Michael Hickman getting it done. And just to add on, why would you do that? Well, a couple of things. They're only racing each other. There's a 13-second gap to the podium. There's a 13-second gap to Reynolds Jr. outside the top 5. They're not going to catch or be caught realistically. This is their battle for this race. They're fighting over P4. They both knew that. So why not? You make a mistake, the easiest thing to do is to apologize, and how you do that on a racetrack, you just give the position up and you resume racing. I hate things having to go to the stewards. Take it out of the stewards' hands. Go ahead and right the wrong immediately, race on, and exactly what you said, Jack, we get treated to a proper fight, and that's exactly what we got there. That was a feel-good pass from Michael Hickman.
Absolutely. I think, speaking of making mistakes, doing things that are perhaps illegal, Stefano Zanatti was down pit lane a few moments ago. My only assumption is it was for a drive-through penalty. That is not something I'm able to see. That is not something that is reported, but there's no other reason for him to have driven through pit lane. He didn't stop. Otherwise, the status would have updated, would have said, hey, he stopped on, lap 30 versus on lap 19. So I think a drive-through penalty for Stefano Zanatti. We've been seeing people go off track all race long. All those yellow flags, those are all X's of your available allotment. iRacing, of course, has a slightly different way of doing track limits to other sims. They kind of all work in the same sense, but this is a little bit different. If you go off track enough times, regardless of if you gain time off of it, you can find yourself with a drive-through penalty. I think that is exactly what happened to Stefano Zanatti, and threw Curva del Sol out of the Senna S's, and I think it's going to be just about a late-breaking battle, Jesse. I personally wouldn't want to have to outbrake a Porsche. Good news for Daniel Kent. Doesn't look like he's going to have to do that this time around, but definitely unfortunate circumstances for the 18 car.
Yeah, certainly unfortunate if that is a drive-through penalty for track limits. We have no reason to believe it's anything but that kind of begs the question, with 14 minutes left to go, if Zanatti has run afoul of his allotted amount of track limit warnings, how many other drivers? Considering just what you said, we've seen every car several times. Zanatti just did it again, ran off the track in turn number 12. How many other drivers are really close to breaking through that drive-through barrier here tonight? You worry about that a little bit as we creep ever closer, especially cars that are in battles. We just covered the Hickman-Dawson-Latham fight. They're still separated by less than a second. Who's to say that they're not pushing a little extra hard and they're really close to coming through that threshold? Look at the drafting down the pit straight here. Daniel Kent nearly leading Devon Strauch into the pit lane barrier there.
Yeah, that was incredibly tight. I switched to the camera and went, it was that not a trick of the lens, surely. Looks like he almost drove into the wall. Fortunately, though, for Devin Strauss not doing it, though that would have been some impact.
I have, in other leagues, I have seen that happen before, where a driver was sort of obscuring the pit lane sort of embutment and tire pack, and at the last second a driver sort of maneuvers out of the way, and the car directly behind them had a horrific crash into that barrier, in a different sim, mind you, but still, that I've seen that occur. I've actually seen that, now that I think about it, I've seen it occur in iRacing. I've seen a car that I was in a race with do that at Indianapolis one year.
Less than ideal. That's what I would call it. In my professional opinion, less than ideal. Well, you see that kind of thing happen if there's a stationary car, maybe cars driving into a yellow flag. You're right, you know, nose to tail with the car ahead of you. They react late, maybe, but not quite. He said, "I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again."
Yeah. I saw this movie before. I'm not playing your game.
He did, and he's immediately all over him. And from the YouTube chat, Corey letting us know that he was peeking in on Marie De Pasquale's stream, saying that she is very close to a drive-through, anticipating that that might mean that a lot of other drivers are as well. And I think that's true, and we'll just have to sort of keep our eye on that. And I wish I was able to see like penalty status or something of the like, but unfortunately, I'm looking, I don't see a way. So we'll just call it as we see it, folks. But most of the field sorted. Paul O'Malley leads Piotr Trzabilski now by a clear and present 7.5 seconds. Beyond that, James O'Brien is behind them in third. Michael Hickman and Nick Dawson-Lathan still super close. Beyond that, George Reynolds Jr., Benjamin Galat, Stom Padarakis, Wyatt Johnson, and Ted Piper, your top 10. And speaking of Ted Piper, Jesse, I fear that maybe it wasn't a tire change. We haven't seen any surging. If Wyatt Johnson and Ted Piper have caught up, to be clear, but not by as much as I was expecting. They have gained a position by... it's making me nervous every time now. I'm like, is he gonna not run into the wall? But of course, he can see out the windscreen. He should. But the way that they are both taking, there's usually only one line through the straight that isn't straight. Today, and today alone, we have two distinct lines coming into turn one.
Yeah, you know, Molly Hatchet had a hit song called Flirting with Disaster, and I would say Daniel Kent is playing that game, and Devin Strauss said, I no longer wish to, but looking down the inside is the Porsche. Can't quite get it done. That's going to bring Barry Cochran's Corvette into play here, side by side. Now, this should favor the Corvette up the hill, and it does. Pass made for Barry Cochran up into 14th place. And we'll have to see how that works out for Daniel Kent, who now has a new challenger who falls off the race, who falls off of the racetrack. They're pulling completely off now. What has happened to Barry Cochran? Did they run off the racetrack and get a drive-through penalty, and that's why they've fallen off? I don't understand.
That is a bit strange. They like went off. They're like, oh, I've gone deep. Oh, no, it's fine. Oh, I'm off circuit. Oh, I don't know what to do. And I think it was just sort of paralyzed. And maybe a black flag was waved. Maybe some form of penalty was produced, as we now see Paul O'Malley getting involved as the race leader comes to lap the back markers. And I'm curious if we're going to see that Corvette come down pit lane. Might be able to see them in the background. Nope, that's staying clear and away from the pit entry, so nothing of the like. Very sort of strange to see a mistake, obviously, but then no real intention to get back onto the circuit. So I'm not sure. I mean, listen, we've seen a couple unique things here tonight. Lots of flirting, lots of disaster. Well, not a lot of disaster. Everybody's doing well. But no, plenty of flirting, and I do think, to a certain extent, these two need to take each other out to dinner.
I have no opinion. Michael Hickman in fourth place, leading Dawson Lathan. You were right about this, Jack, by the way. I thought Michael Hickman was going to disappear off into the distance. That has not happened. Hickman got the spot, but that Corvette is hanging right there with the McLaren for fourth place. Dawson Lathan still right there. It ebbs and flows between a quarter of a second to a little over half a second, but he never gets away, does Michael Hickman.
No, he absolutely doesn't. Really, really doing a great job from the pair, and I do hope that we get some more of this in the upcoming season. And I will now choose to share a lot of the information that I was sent regarding season 3. And I'll start with the length. I teased just a little bit. It will go from 12 rounds to 10 round championship. Round 1, July 2nd. So a couple of weeks break, and then we will be right back to racing again. The biggest shift, which I think will be good news for a lot of people, is there is now going to be classification, 3 distinct splits for 3 distinct championships: Pro, Pro-Am, and the Am split. So if you're fighting in the back like we've seen so much and so how we enjoy, it will be potentially fights for championships. So that is all good news for them. It's a slightly awkward one for me to bring up, but I'm going to bring it up nonetheless because it is important. There is now an entry fee. Don't look at me. It's to support myself and my friends who I bring in the booth with me, which is appreciated. That was a call by the admin team. That was not a call by me. I just want to make that clear. I just want to be transparent. And of course, if you are a Patreon patron, you do not have to pay. If you supported any of the streams this season, you will have a discount on that entry fee. So don't let that push you away. It's looking like it's going to be a great season. Besides, everything's on SimGrid as well, which might make things a little bit easier for everybody else. And there is also a drop round, which is fantastic news. It means that, hey, you have a bad result, or hey, you have to miss a round. That won't necessarily mean you're fully out of championship contention. It's going to be an absolutely incredible 3rd season of GT3s. I will be with you all the way, with whoever is crazy enough to come and join me in the booth. Maybe it's Jesse, maybe it's Ted, British Ted, maybe it's ARL Ted Piper, maybe it's Kevin Boss, maybe it's all 5 of us all at once. It's probably not going to be that, but never say never. Regardless, it's going to be fantastic. Please go over to SimGrid, sign up if you're interested, join the crew that is only getting larger and only getting greater. If you enjoyed what you saw, become a part of it, or at the very least, come join us every week. It's always great to have viewers. Jesse, as you know, we're nowhere without 2 very important things. That's the drivers and that's the viewers. Without them, we're just 2 guys shouting at each other.
Yeah, we'd be doing that anyway, but it's more fun to do it in front of a live audience and with race cars running around the racetrack. Hey, I love a lot of those changes. I love the classification, putting them into Pro. I don't know how they're going to do it, but Pro, Pro-Am, and Am, I would assume some variety of that. I think that's brilliant. Whatever actual categories they decide, doing it, making the call to do that in the first place is brilliant. I think that there's a strong argument that there will be 3 different classifications of the car. I also too, you mentioned earlier that the fuel limit capacity is going up by 20 liters. I think it is
20%. So, I did forget to mention that. We'll go from 55% to 75%, and also qualifying will go to the full 10-minute session and a fully open circuit. So no private qualifying. Everybody's gonna need to find their way onto the circuits. Yes, did forget those. And
I love that.
All good things
from a broadcast standpoint. Solo qualifying. Somebody who's called single shot or one shot quali, as it's called, quite quite boring as a broadcaster, I'll just say, to see one car go around and then the rest of the time is completely wasted. iRacing, of course, in the sort of interest of time, lets everybody do their one-shot qualifying all together. And that's obviously in the interest of time, but even still, it's quite a boring sort of situation. So going to a group qualifying session, that adds a little spice. It's an added incentive for broadcasts, and also it adds an extra element for the drivers as well, because not only are you going to have to focus on running your lap, you're going to have to focus on where everyone else is on the racetrack as you try to get your lap in. And it's also, of course, a little bit more realistic with how GT racing qualifying actually works as well. A lot of good changes in ARL for the next season. I can't wait to see how it's all gonna shake out, honestly. You know, another thing I wonder, a lot of car changes maybe going on. I think Ford has been really strong. How many drivers from this season will we see in different cars in the next season? I wonder how many will stay with the car that got them here as well. It's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. But the biggest question about drivers changing cars is this one that's on our screen. A car we've just been so familiar with. The Dadman GT, driven by Paul O'Malley. Will he stay in the Mustang?
I love the car, Dadman GT.
Dadman GT. And I believe on the rear of the car, does it say WTF is a kilometer? That is, in fact, on the rear of the car, which, driving a Mustang, chef's kiss. No notes for me,
No,
but,
yeah.
but we'll see. Will there be a change
driving
in
a
cars?
Mustang in America's Racing League, of all things, as well. The double, I think, is very fitting for that car in particular. Jack, I got a question for you before we close out the season.
Uh-oh.
You mentioned the motley crew that you've had as your co-presenters this season. What's that like as a broadcaster and a commentator in and of itself, as one of the cars in and out of pit lane? Is that
Zanatti again? That is... Oh, no. Stefano Zanatti... Part of me is starting to wonder I don't think he managed to rack up a full drive-through penalty again. I'm finding that hard to believe. But maybe...
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know either, but it's gone a bit wrong. But to answer your question, it's definitely a bit interesting. It's challenging in some ways. The fortunate thing is, everybody who's been gracious enough to come join me on a Thursday night, or indeed on a Friday, or indeed on a Sunday, I know you all pretty well. I would argue. We do things elsewhere, and it's easy to sort of remember, this is what I'm getting from this person, maybe this is what I'm getting from another, so on and so forth. But it's the biggest thing. It's a privilege to have multiple people that are ready to kick down my door and say, hey, let's watch and talk about some racing together. So I hope that continues, and Paul O'Malley's gonna hope that this continues. Wins the championship last week, wins the final race this week. No better way to finish out a season for Paul O'Malley. Piotr Chabilski, second best tonight. I do believe second best in the championship. Good news for him, though. You still got next time plenty more drivers besides crossing line. I think everybody from 9th down may be doing it. And James O'Brien, well, he's going to cross the line from pit lane. Was it a final lap drive-through penalty for James O'Brien? Or is he just having a little bit of fun? I don't know. Has he already crossed the line? I also don't know, but I find that incredibly unlikely. I think he's taking the checkered flag from the very end. Michael Hickman's going to crawl across the line in front of his rival and new best friend, Nick Dawson-Lathan. George Reynolds Jr. is going to come through to take the checkered flag from 6th position. A very well-driven race from not the greatest qualifying spot. And a driver that echoes that sentiment, Benjamin Gallant, up in 7th place. The last two to come across the line at basically identical speed. I don't know if that's been manufactured or not, but Wyatt Johnson and Stan Paderek, it's across the line into Barrier. O'Malley's gonna finish his lap. Who was that doing donuts? I smelled a V8 and some donuts. Where? There it is. It's Daniel Kent giving us a show for the final round. Jesse Lee, that was another great evening in great company. Not just you, but also with the company of everybody who started this season with us, for everybody that came mid-season. But these are all of our drivers that indeed ended it with us for the final time. Jesse Lee, the results, my good man.
Yes, indeed. Just a fantastic championship. Of course, all good things must come to an end, but for Paul O'Malley, it's doubly sweet. A victory lap here at Interlagos, confirming him as champion a week ago, but getting to taste a double victory today, something very few actually get to achieve. And for Piotr Shabilski, you said it the best. They really kind of needed a first or a second place here. It was everything to play for from second on back in this championship. They needed that to secure their positions. And for a lot of these drivers, this has been decided at the very last. Michael Hickman claims the final podium position over Dawson Lathan. Reynolds, the top five. O'Brien, Gallant, Paderakis, Johnson, Piper, and the lot all coming to a conclusion. And everybody celebrating is the other thing, Jack. Everyone celebrating, not necessarily their finishing position, but the conclusion of a crazy, contentious championship. Jack, I hear you're down with our champion.
Absolutely. I mean, congratulations on the championship again. And congrats on another victory. There's no better way to finish your championship. Maybe you wrap it up a little bit early, but just to really send the message to every other driver in the world, hey, it wasn't luck. I beat you again tonight. Just tell me, how does it feel coming off the end of this championship?
Honestly, it's a relief that it's over now. Pressure's all gone. I can finally just soak it in and just be happy for how everything went.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that you'll be joining us next season. At least I sincerely hope you do. Good news for you, but bad news for everyone else. You didn't get your own split this time. I think you're just gonna have to be in the top, fighting with the top guys. But I don't think they're gonna make it easy on you this time, or as easy. Not that it seemed like it was easy. Let me be clear. But I mean, are you looking forward to getting underway again in a couple weeks? Is it going to be a much needed break?
It's going to be good to have a week off and just kind of reset. But yeah, really looking forward to the next season. I think splitting up into 3 classes is going to be a really great thing for the league. I loved it when they announced it. Really happy that they're going to do that. It's going to make things a lot more competitive and enjoyable for everybody. And I'm glad I'm not going to be out there on my own and that I'm going to actually have some people to race with. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and from myself, from all the drivers, I'm sure they'll agree to congratulate you one final time for this championship. I mean, thank you for coming to talk to us week after week, and I mean, obviously, don't stop. You're welcome in here anytime. Obviously, you know the cost. You got to win the race. So best of luck. Enjoy your time off, and enjoy the start of the new championship in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Jack. Have a good night.
Special guest with Jesse Lee. It's Mr. George Reynolds Jr., not just race car driver and overall good human being, but also the admin and event manager of this wonderful, wonderful championship. And Jesse, treat him like he's not special. Treat him like we treat him like we treat everybody else.
Absolutely not. George, nice to talk to you. Gotta say, brilliant top five in the Chevrolet, and I wouldn't have called that early on. It looked like the Corvettes fell back a little bit. You gained some pace back, ended up in the top five. Talk us through how your race went from the drop of the green flag to the checkered.
Well, it was pretty hectic right at the beginning there. I just couldn't get the pace going, and then everyone around was being pretty aggressive from the get-go. Not a bad aggressive, just those top guys are really quick. So I had to settle down, get a pace, and get moving again. And then I just kind of settled in and just kind of let the race come to me. And after that, honestly, it was kind of boring. There's guys that were way ahead and guys way back, and it's just all about managing the race. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this season. I wanted to give a huge congrats to Paul while he's in here and tell him good job on a season well done. And then I wanted to give a huge thank you to both of you guys for the amazing work that you've done. It's super awesome, and it's been a lot of fun to go back and watch.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to broadcast races like this. But one of the things that I noticed immediately coming in, having done other series all around the world, is just the sort of the camaraderie is different here at ARL. The way that drivers drive each other with respect, and when a mistake is made, usually it's not a blame game. It's more of a my bad, we'll get them next time sort of mentality. And the way that the drivers they take care of each other out there on the racetrack is sort of a foreign concept in a lot of leagues, but it isn't here. It's the norm every week in every sim. We see that. We saw it today with Hickman for a podium position in the race, that sort of respect and sportsmanship. And that's sort of a very ARL specific thing that I've noticed and I've come to absolutely admire. But back to your race for a moment. Conversation of the day was track limits. How close did you get?
I think I had 12 or 13 limits. So I was pushing it quite a bit. My main spot was, I don't know the corners here. It was after the first long straight, after the sector one there, that corner to the left, and then the final corner going up the hill. I kept getting dinged right there in those two spots.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Those were certainly some of the biggest, probably the biggest problem spots for everyone. But George, this is your show. We're just the hamsters on the wheel. Anything you'd like to say to the lovely people at home?
Just looking forward to next season. It'll be a lot of fun. So far, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty good grid. So, yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Well, it's a brilliant top five from you today. Drove a really good race, and despite it being a little bit boring in no man's land in the middle there, you made it look good. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Back to you, Jack Mason.
Yeah, and George, thank you from you as well for having us out, of course, and it's a good way to spend an evening. I'm just saying, guys, if you want to spend an evening, watch racing or talk about it, or my door's always open. You can come join me if you feel so inclined. But no, thanks for putting on a great championship. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I think every change you've made is absolutely a great one. I think it will be in good service to the racing, just to keep it somehow even better. Is my expectation.
And I think it's gonna. I expect and hope that it keeps early drivers in that start early in it for the long haul, and keep them fighting for something all through the grid.
Absolutely, it's so many great fights through front runners, mid pack, and towards the back markers that it would be a shame if they weren't all fighting for championship. Brilliant thing is now they can, and so thank you for that. Thank you for joining us as well, and well, I would say cost of showing up here next time is a win, but I think I will open the door to a win in class. So I don't know where you'll get stuck. But
I'm stuck with the fast guys, sadly, with the stats that I've had. So sadly,
well,
I'll be trailing up the back of them.
well, sounds like you got your work cut out for you. No, you're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome in here anytime. Because without you, none of us are here. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So thank you for that, and congrats on the top five as well. And yeah, we'll certainly talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good, buddy. Thank you.
Jesse Lee, another close on another event, this time the finale of a championship. Uh, Sad to see her leave, but love to watch her go, and so on and so forth. And any final words from you before we bring this thing to a close?
Well, I think ARL might want to change their tagline to racing the way it ought to be, because that's sort of the mantra around here, is that every week you get racing the way that it ought to be. And it's respectful racing, it's hard racing, but it's fair racing almost all of the time. And while it is sad to see this iRacing championship end, the positive is that there's a new one, a fresh start, a new beginning. Everyone reset to nil, and we're going to do it all over again for 10 rounds in iRacing starting in just a couple of weeks. So, while it is sad that this one's ending, something new, something better, bigger, brighter, and maybe just as dramatic is just over the horizon.
Of course, and in one final incentive, maybe you're thinking you're on the fence. You're like, it sounds pretty good. I'll let you know the schedule for the champ, because honestly, most of my favorite North American circuits are on the list, if not all of them. Round 1, Long Beach. Round 2, Laguna Seca. Round 3, Road America. Round 4, Road Atlanta. Round 5, the brand new Coronado circuit, the Qualcomm circuit that has come to iRacing, will be with us. Coda for round 6. Mid Ohio round 7. Sonoma Sports Car Course for round 8. Watkins Glen, an absolute classic, for round 9. And to tie it all off at Barber Motorsports Park, a stellar schedule, so many circuits to look forward to, and plenty of racing to happen. And of course, not just on Thursdays. America's Racing League, we got stuff going on all the time. If there's a sim you fancy, if there's a car you want to drive, chances are you will find a spot for it on ARL. Head down to the website, join the Discord, see all the events that are going on SimGrid. One final thank you to all the drivers for a wonderful season. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us. Thank you one final time to Jesse tonight and all of my co-presenters throughout the championship. I'll see you on Saturday, or excuse me, I'll see you on Sunday, and I will see you again right here for more iRacing in a couple of weeks. Take care of yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and I look very much forward to seeing you all very soon.